What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a Lectron Billetron Pro Series Carb install for the DRZ 400. Got a 2015 here, the stock Mikuni BSR 36 on there. Just going to be doing a install vid of what it takes to install the Lectron, what comes in the kit, and how to take off the stock carb. Can be a little bit tricky, a little bit of a tight fit in there, but yeah, I'll be sharing some tips along the way, as well as answering some questions about a few things I've gotten over the years running the Lectron, and just some knowledge I've gained over the years as well. Just a disclaimer, I have already been running the Lectron for a couple years now. I even started with the Gen 2 carb, and now moved on to the Billetron Pro for the last couple years. So I already had it installed. I uninstalled it and put the stock carb back on just to make the video. So just a bit of a disclaimer for y'all. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into what comes in the kit directly from Lectron. It might be a little bit different than what you get straight from them, but it should all be pretty similar and be set up the same. Alright, so this is what you should get in the kit, all unpacked and everything like that. So straight from Lectron, you'll get the carb, of course, which is the body of the carb, the slide and metering rod combo, slide spring, gasket, top cap, and then these will come in the easy tuning kit. These are going to be just quick turn thumb screws that you can spin off with your fingers. What comes in their stock is going to be some Allen keys. I believe they're 3 mil. So just makes it easier if you have to take the slide out and just the rod. It's not necessary, but they make it easier, and it also comes with a rod tool as well. So pretty useful kit. It's additional 30. Not much more for some ease of tuning. So that, and then it'll also come with a throttle cable and a throttle housing itself. Mine, of course, already has the tube and a grip on it because I had it on there. So that'll come in the kit, as well as it should come with a couple of stickers, I think. A couple of stickers. This is an old one, but yeah. It'll come preset. You should be able to throw it on the bike, get it started, and it should be pretty dang close from them themselves. So yeah, not much to the kit. We could just hop straight into the install here, so let's go. All right, so obviously have the stock carb in there. I don't know if you can see a little bit better that way. Stock carb. The reason why I have this stupid contraption is because I have the Raptor petcock on there, and of course you have to kind of modify it to make it go out the correct way. So I have it backwards. Yeah. But it's tucked up in there pretty nice. You're gonna have to take the seat off, the tank. You could take the shrouds off independently, like without the tank, or separately from the tank. You could just undo these 3 bolts. I've lost bolts and stuff like that. I ride the bike hard and I work on it a lot, so I lose shit. But yeah, you can take them off by themselves. Usually what I do is I just take off the bolt from the radiator itself, and then the whole like tank and shroud combo will lift up, and then you can just put it out of the way. Some people will fully undo the sub bolt or the subframe bolts. I don't, because I don't want to have to go through all that trouble. So what I do is I take off the top subframe kind of a long bolt there, and then I kind of just push down on the rear fender, and it gives you a little bit of extra wiggle room to get the carb in and out. And you just put the bolt through. I'll go ahead and I'll show you whenever we get to that point. But yeah, and then also to undo the exhaust mount on the passenger foot peg, because if you bend, or if you go to push down on the subframe, it can slide your mid pipe out of the header pipe and everything like that. So it's just a trouble and everything like that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into the uninstall here. Oh, and then also you have to take off the throttle housing as well. Pretty simple on that. I'll probably do that first just because the throttle cable is pretty annoying. So yeah, we'll go jump into that right now. I usually start with that first, but let me go ahead and get off the seat, the tank, and everything like that. So get everything out the way. So it's just bare bones, and it'll make everything a little bit easier getting the cable out. So let's get started on that. So for the seat, it's going to be a 5mm Allen. They're going to be in that bolt on both sides of the bike. It'll just be 2. Just zip them off, and you'll take the seat off. So once you got them off, seat pulls up and kind of back. So you'll go ahead and set that aside here. And so for the tank, you'll have these little spacers. I'm missing the bushing. So yeah, these little spacers here, they'll go underneath the tank, and then you'll have these bolts with a washer and a little rubber spacer as well, grommet, whatever you want to call it. Go through there. So 10mm heads, zip them off, and then this is the part where you can just take off the bottom radiator bolt or bottom radiator shroud bolt and just lift the tank up with the shrouds on, or take the shrouds off independently. Totally up to you. Doesn't matter. Those are going to be 8mm Allen heads, or I'm sorry, 8mm bolts on the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do, and also go disconnect your petcock from the carb. I don't like getting gas everywhere, so I catch it with the freaking paper towel, cause gas sucks. All right, I'll do. Alrighty, now that you got your bolts off here, just lift the tank. It'll be like up and back again, kind of like the seat. So you go, just set that aside somewhere safe. Make sure petcock is on, or you don't knock it off, or knock it in the on position and spill gas everywhere. Ask me how I know. Alright, so we got everything taken off from the most part. This is the subframe bolt that I was talking about. This will come off, but as of right now, I'm going to take off the throttle cable so we could just be left with the carb. So let's get it going. All right, so at the throttle housing, typical standard like perch setup, it'll be a top bolt and a bottom bolt. Just go ahead and take those off. These are going to be Phillips on the DRZ, and it's just a standard push-pull cable. So one will twist, and then one rolls it back, safety feature, whatever. But yeah, it'll just be a simple unbolting of that. And again, this was haphazardly thrown together, so it might give you a little bit more trouble, but we'll just slide this rubber grommet back. These will separate. So you get the 2 housing halves, and then you'll have 2 cables. Just go ahead, unhook those. All right, and you're left with the cable, and then this throttle tube will slide out. If you haven't taken your throttle tube off ever, this will be a good time to clean this up. And then I like, some people, that's personal preference, I put like a light little layer of grease on there. The Lectron one comes with like a self-lubricating Delrin tube or something like that. So up to you if you want to use it, but yeah, this is probably going to be a little bit dirty, so just clean it off. And yeah, then yeah, you're up with the cable, so just keep it up here and then unhook it from the carb, which I'll show you next, and then it'll just kind of fish through the the head tube and everything like that, which is a little tricky, but nothing too crazy, so we'll do that next. All right, it's a little bit of a tight fit on this side. You could probably take this number plate, quote unquote, off, but you can kind of work around it. But it'll come into the carb, excuse me, it'll come into the carb with these two cables, one in the back, one in the front. These can be a pain with, like, if you've never taken it off before. Again, I haphazardly threw this together, so they're going to be easy, but you just unthread these bolts. I believe they're 8mm, or not bolts, but these nuts, they're 8mm nuts, lock nuts, and then they will slide on out of there. Again, this could be a whole lot more frustrating if you've never done it before, but just stay calm, don't get frustrated. Easier said than done, but it'll come out. Okay, got that one. This one wraps all the way around. Hello. And these can be a pain getting them out of the throttle cam itself. All right, so now they're both unhooked. So we'll just fish the cable through on the head tube. Alrighty, so it's gonna be a little bit tricky. It might be held in with some ties and stuff straight from the factory, but of course, yeah, just get it through and it'll come right out. Nothing too crazy. Again, it might be a little bit more frustrating from like stock from factory if you've never taken it out before. But yeah, just stick with it. Don't get frustrated. Alrighty, so now we got the cable out. We're just left with purely the carb. So this is the part where we will take off the subframe pivot bolt, or top pivot, whichever it's called. It's going to be a 12mm on both sides. You'll have to get a socket and a wrench on it. But get it off. It might be a little bit tight, again, if you've never taken it off, but it'll unthread the nut. And then also too, it makes it easier is if you take off the exhaust bolt here on the passenger. On the passenger foot peg. It helps when you push the subframe down. So you'll pop it out and then it'll come out, and what I like to do is push down on the subframe and then you'll just slide the bolt back in, and what that does is give you some extra room back here to slide that carb in, or take it out actually, and into. So makes it easier, and that's that. So we'll go in for a close-up as close as we can get. All right, so we're up close on the carb here. Don't mind the scratches. I've had to take the carb off and on a lot of times for various reasons. So yeah, hopefully you don't scratch your frame that bad. If you do, you should probably get it repainted, or get some type of protection on there, because yeah, a little bit of rust, but nothing too crazy. All right, you have your TPS sensor here. It'll probably be routed through the frame here on the stock setup. Geez, that feels like a lot of slag in there. So yeah, you'll just pop that off. It'll probably be harder than that too, but yeah, pop it off. And then the stock clamps are going to be Phillips from Suzuki. I have some aftermarket ones because again, those got ruined. But yeah, just pop off the clamps. And this is the fun part, is getting the carb off. So gonna have to just finesse it as best as you can. Just find a way that works That's the only thing I can tell you. Again, some people take the subframe all the way off. I don't. Or they unbolt it completely and then pop it off. I don't want to go through all that trouble of, you know, with this, pulling the subframe back, you got the boot and you got some hoses here that tend to get out of orientation, but I don't want to do that. So, just kind of get her going as best as you can. Just do some wiggling. This is probably not the best practice, I'll admit it, but I am just tired of the amount of times I've had to pull this carb off that I just don't care. Obviously, be a little bit more gentle. If you have a nice 2024, 23 DRZ, you know, you don't want to get it all scratchy. You should have probably gotten a not brand new one, because it's the same bike for the past like 20 years. But you got it off. Okay, so you'll be left with the manifold. On the stock manifold, if you've never taken it off before, there'll be a little locating tab here. Just cut that off, just cut it flush with the manifold. It'll interfere with the fitment of the Lectron. So just get that taken care of. That's the only modification, quote unquote, that you need to do. But yeah, so we're pretty much all gone, or all good to go. Stock carb is out of there. Yours will probably look a lot neater than this one, but of course, I've had it for a while, so. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Lectron here. I'll get into a few of the adjustments and things like that, but I'll probably be making a separate tuning video, or like how to get stuff dialed in, and things like that. So, yeah, let's go take a look at the kit, and take a look at the carb. Alrighty, so we have the Lectron carb here. Pretty slick. Don't ask about the color. It's purple. The standard ones are going to be black. You might want to check in with them to see if they can do something for you. Don't know if they will, but I was able to get my hands on a purple one. But yeah, this is going to be their newest revision of the carb. It's going to have the longer spigot. The earlier ones had a short spigot, probably like this, like where this little lip is probably like that long, and then longer on the bell side. They made some changes, so it's a longer spigot, shorter bell. So yeah, but nothing too crazy. It doesn't change the fitment or anything like that. So pretty slick, really nicely made. Got the serial number here. But yeah, this is our DRZ specific carb. It's a Pro Series. And yeah, just the overall pretty nice piece of work. It'll come with a vacuum barb. That's going to be for the vacuum petcocks, the stock ones. If you don't have a vacuum petcock, then just leave it capped off. Don't uncap it, because you'll be ruining your tune. You'll be throwing in some unmeasured air there, and yeah, your bike will just run terribly. So yeah, just going over a few of the adjustments on what they do and things like that. This is going to be your choke. Up for on, down for off. Depending on where you live and the tune of your bike and stuff like that, you probably really don't ever have to use the choke. I haven't had to use the choke ever in my time running Lectrons. I'm in Texas, so, you know, fairly around sea level and always hot, humid, so never really had to use it, but you might have to. It's going to be right there. It might be a little hard to reach on like the SM setups and stuff like that, or if you run an oversized tank, it can be hard to reach, but again, you really rarely have to use it in my experience, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference. Then you'll have your idle screw. This is going to be that gold brass one. You probably won't be able to see, you can kind of see that little, no, you can't see it, but there's going to be a little nub in there. That's going to be the screw, but basically what it does is it controls the height of the slide in the bore of the carb, which will control your idle speed. So yeah, whenever you're adjusting that idle, it adjusts that little gap in there. You can't really see the light going through it. You can kind of see it right there, but you'll be controlling that gap in the side of the carb, or in the bore of the carb. Really, from stock, you're probably going to just have to do like a quarter or half turn either in or out. Usually pretty close to setup. So yeah, this will be your torque jet. That's going to be for your like 8th to mid throttle. So like your bottom to mid range, and then that's going to be your power jet. That's going to be for your top end. You can see how they work. Control that little nozzle and send fuel through there, send fuel through there. But yeah, that's it for as far as adjusting goes. That's just the cap screw, so that doesn't do anything. But yeah, as far as adjustment goes, the next one would be the slide. The 4-strokes will have the really nice chrome plated brass slides. Super slick, super nice, pretty trick. And then you'll have your metering rod, if it wants to focus. Oh, excuse me. It'll have your metering rod. This is going to be the X rod. X rods come stock in all the carbs now, which is really cool. A super awesome rod. Pretty much acts like an accelerator pump without the whole mechanism. But yeah, this is also adjustable. This is going to be for like your idle to about 8th throttle. So really just set upon initial installation. But it is also adjustable, which you do obviously with the screws. You just turn them left and right. With the rod, you can use your rod tool, turn it left or right, and then there is going to be some spring tension there. Excuse me again. So you push up on it, and then whenever you turn it and you push up on it, it doesn't change the length of the rod. So you can push up on it and freely move it. You'll do that to whenever you make an adjustment. So like you go a quarter turn, and then you can push up on it and reset it. So you've then made an adjustment on that. So that's also adjustable. All good to go. And then throttle cable, that's always a big question I get, or I've come across. People don't know how to set up throttle cable for some reason. So yeah, this end goes into the carb, the smaller end. The bigger end, these are going to be 10 mil threads. These go into the throttle housing. So it'll thread into the top of the carb. There's no like retainer like a typical slide. You know how they have like a little plastic retainer? This will just sit in the hole, and it's held in by spring tension, by the slide spring and just cable tension. It will not come out at all. So don't worry. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but it doesn't come out. It's always under tension, so it'll stay in there. It's not going to come through or anything. You're good to go. But yeah, that's probably it on the kit. We'll go ahead and get on the install. I'll go backwards of the stock carb. So I'll install the carb first, and then do the throttle cable and everything like that. So yeah, got the carb here. Nothing on it, just bare carb. So pop it in the boots. Best way I've done it and experienced in the past is to start with the spigot side first. So pop that in, and then kind of pivot it into the air box. So go in there, kind of pull the air boot back, and then it'll slide right in there. I have to loosen up the clamp a little bit. Just get it, just finesse it in there. There's no easy way, but you're pretty much in there. You have to line up your airbox boot there. So yeah, we're good there. I like to leave it loose. Then got that in there. Then unhook your pivot, put that back in, snap it in there, and then just make sure your air boot is all the way in and all good to go. That looks good to me. So got a carb in, pretty easy. Next, let's get the throttle housing on there and cable. I don't like this hiding it down until I got the carb, or until I got the top cap and everything buttoned up, fully installed on the carb, and then I just twist it back into place, orientate it properly, and get it going. So we can do that next. All right, so I'll go ahead and put the throttle housing in first. Typically, I like to start with the throttle housing first and then put the cable in. So just undo everything. You'll have your two halves. Take off the little top plate, and then you'll have your pulley wheel and bushing. Yours will be green, mine's white. Just some personal preference on there. But yeah, let's get that going on here. And also too, the throttle tube. So, all right. What I like to do is get my throttle housing on there. I have bar ends, so careful not to, or I have closed grips, so careful not to have it to where you are going to be sticking throttle. That's not very fun. All right, and then you'll put your top half on, and then your bottom half. Just get it orientated roughly at the moment. Get your screws going here. I like to leave it all loose for now, because then you'll button up everything nicely after. So go there. All right, we're there. All right, next we'll start with the throttle cable. Fish it through the little hole here. Could be a little tricky. Make sure the little ferrule comes through the threads here. Then hook it. Perfect. Excuse me. And then thread in, cable in. Make sure that jam nut is all the way back, and just thread in the cable. Could be a little tricky at first. And then now you can put in your little pulley wheel and bushing and put that cap on so nothing will fall out. And of course these are going to be just Phillips, so get those going. Hello. All right, get those going. It is not got to be super tight, just snug them down. How I route my cable is I'll go and put that dust boot on too as well. Sorry. For now. Is I go directly behind the speedometer. There'll be a little, there'll be a little square bracket. Just feed it through there, and it'll come out pretty easily. So behind the head tube, so you just come out behind the head tube. Just follow this little wiring harness here, and then pop it into this little holder for that harness. And then on these tank grommets, I'll just feed it through the back of that, and then it'll go perfectly to the carb. All right, so got the cable end over here. Go ahead and just thread in that top cap until it stops, and then just get the routing all good. All right, and so you'll put your gasket on, followed by the slide spring. So you got it, and then what you'll do is you'll push that spring down. You'll be left with just the wire and the ferrule, and then what you'll do is slide that little ferrule into the hole, let go of the spring, make sure it goes into the little bore there, and you're good to go. It'll be able to hang on there like that. Feed it into the carb. It'll only go one way, so it's going to be hard to mess it up. And now you'll probably notice that the top cap won't line up, so it's going to cock the cable at a weird angle. Just unthread it and then just go back one turn to where it's free, and you'll be fine. It doesn't have to be all the way tight on there. You can go back one turn and it's totally fine. So then we'll go ahead and pop on your top cap screws. If you have the quick turns, just twist those on. If you have the Allens, just get those going. And then I like to get it orientated properly for when the bike is going to be uprights. So just do a check. Looks good. And then go ahead and tighten up these clamps here for you. And again, these will be Phillips if it's a stock clamp. And just get them nice and snug. If you have some aftermarket ones, which I actually recommend, by the way. I don't like those stock ones. They're just not very good. Yeah, they do a job, but I like the worm clamp ones. Or the worm screw ones. Alright, she's all good to go. Next, we'll do throttle cable free play, which is another area that a lot of people have trouble with. But also, too, you can just give her a good little tug. The whole bike is moving, obviously, so you know it's pretty snug on there. But yeah, we'll go over throttle cable free play, which is another area that a lot of people struggle with. We got everything all attached to the carb and everything, so you just want to have to try and orientate this in a good way. I usually get mine about like right there. Don't go all the way in. You can kind of give it a few tests and get her all snugged down. I'll just do finger tight right now. All right, good on that end. All right, so cable free play. Typically, you want about 2 mil free play before the cable will start actuating the slide. This is pretty good. It's kind of personal preference. People like to take up all the slack. Some people like more slack. I like a little bit. This will probably be normal. I like mine just a little bit more. So you'll get the adjustment. You'll get adjustment here. This is an adjustment. It's not supposed to be just all the way in. Well, it doesn't have to be. And then you'll get an adjustment at the carb. So play with it. Threading it out makes the cable longer, so it takes up the free play, makes the cable tighter, quote unquote. Threading it in makes the cable shorter, so to speak, which increases the free play. I may have that backwards, actually. But yeah, you can think of it as unthreading it will kind of push the cable out and increase the tension, so it'll take up any slack. Threading it in will push the cable in, which will increase slack. So I'll go ahead and unthread it just a little bit. I'm doing this full lock to the right, So you'll want to go ahead and move the bars straight and then full lock left to make sure that the cable free play isn't getting tighter, because then you'll, of course, you know, have some sticky throttle, or the throttle will be hanging up in when you're turning the bars. So just make sure you test it in a full range of motion. All right, with setting that free play, you're pretty much done with the install. It's just going to be putting everything back on and getting her all buttoned up, but I'll do that now, and then we'll do a startup, do a bowl fill, and see how she does. All right, let's see if we can get a nice bowl fill. Nice. It looks like it's overfilled because the bike is at an angle, but of course if we lift it up, it drops nice to where we need it to be. All right, so we got everything all buttoned back up together. Let's go ahead and do a startup. There's gonna be no choke, stock settings. There you have it as install, taking the stock carb off, putting the Lectron on there, a little bit about the Lectron. I'll probably make another video for tuning, just going over more in depth. I know I went over them a little bit in this video, but just to go over a little bit more, you know, in depth of what the bike's doing, or what does what. If the bike is doing this, do that, things like that. And then too, I have a Gen 2, so we'll take a look at some differences too with those carbs. So yeah, I appreciate the watch. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer. So.